Today in this YouTube video, we are going to be talking about triggers. What are triggers? How do we get triggered? And most importantly, how can we use triggers to help heal ourselves? Today we are going to be talking about these topics. So if you are somebody who is interested or resonates with this topic, then stick around. Triggers are oftentimes a reaction that we have that happens within ourselves in response to something that is happening on the outside. This could be an event, it could be somebody saying something or doing some sort of action, but we tend to have a reaction come about in response to what's going on the outside. That is oftentimes called a trigger, and triggers happen within ourselves. Right? We can say that is when we get triggered. When something on the outside, brings up an emotion, it brings out a reaction from ourselves, then we can say that we are triggered or we have been triggered in some way. Now, why do we get triggered? Oftentimes we get triggered when that experience that is happening on the outside has something to do with something that we have on the inside. Perhaps it's some traumatic experience, some sort of memory, some sort of thing that has happened to us in the past, where it's now bringing us back to that memory or bringing us back to that experience, right? And so that is oftentimes why we get triggered. We get triggered when, there is something within ourselves that is, I would say, in alignment with something that is happening on the outside. But we oftentimes get triggered when we have definitely, some sort of memory or some sort of relation to what is happening in the present moment. Now, somebody could be saying something or doing something right now, but your trigger response comes up also in the present moment, but it has something to do with something that has happened in the past, right? So the more traumatic experiences you have gone through, the more likely you are to become triggered, especially if these triggers are not healed. So I like to really look at triggers as speed humps that we get on our healing journey, where these speed humps are our triggers. And once we are able to look into these triggers, and once we are able to heal these triggers, we have a much flatter surface to walk on, right? So when we actually look into these triggers, we start to flatten the surface on the road, flatten the surface on our path. Can we use triggers to actually heal us? Because I do believe that triggers are guides. They are great indicators as to what is within ourselves that requires us to look at it and to heal it. Now, having self-reflection when you are triggered is very important, because self-reflection guides us. It really guides us inwardly to do inner work, where we are able to really look at why we were triggered. What was the emotional response or reaction that we sort of, reacted with? What sort of memory did this trigger? What sort of feeling did this thing trigger within ourselves? Did this experience outside of ourselves in the present moment trigger within ourselves? When we are able to self-reflect, we're able to look into this, we're able to see this clearly within ourselves and understand that the reason we are reacting towards something that's happening now is not because the thing that person has done or the situation that's happening outside of us has anything to do with us, because sometimes they don't, right? The thing that's happening outside of us that's bringing up a trigger has absolutely nothing to do with us, but yet we are reacting to it, right? When we are self-reflecting, we get to ask ourselves these questions: why am I reacting to it, right? And oftentimes the fact that you are reacting to something means that you have something within yourself that needs to be healed. Whether that can be emotional, that can be, a sort of PTSD that you might have of a time in your life where something may have happened, or there's something, maybe anger, resentment, or whatever sort of emotions that are involved in response to or in reaction to the trigger. Now, triggers are guides, and when we are doing self-reflection, when we are asking ourselves those deep questions as to why am I feeling this way, right? Why am I reacting to something that is happening outside of me when that thing may have absolutely nothing to do with me? And oftentimes the answer to that is that you've gone through something in the past. You probably have PTSD. You have a memory that is coming up from the past. You have some sort of emotion. Oftentimes when we get triggered, the emotion is anger and rage, right? And so when these things happen, when you start asking yourself these questions, this is a great way to guide yourself inwardly and to really look into these questions a little more, right? And to ask yourself and to tell yourself that these are parts of myself that need healing. And when you are able to really look into this, when you are able to actually use these these triggers as a guide, as a means to heal yourself and to do some self-reflection, that is when a lot of healing can take place. Now, what healing can provide for us is that not only do we get triggered less, but also the opportunity to take a moment when we get triggered, the opportunity for us to take a step back and to, instead of react, but to respond. Oftentimes when we react, it's out of an emotional reaction, right? But when we are responding with a sort of wisdom, a sort of presence to what is happening. When you find yourself becoming reactive to the situation that is happening outside of you, it's very important that you sort of sense this within yourself and really, in that moment have the awareness that, you can respond to the situation rather than react to it. And this is what healing can bring about for us. It's the ability to really take a moment to respond to what's going on. And when we responding allows us to come from a deeper place. It comes from a place of presence, a place of awareness of the situation, of the fact that we are even becoming triggered, or we are triggered in the moment. But most importantly, when we are able to heal this, it helps us to, not act out of impulsivity, where a reaction is oftentimes out of impulse, right? We want to take an action or we want to react out of some emotion, and it's oftentimes very impulsive. But when we are able to take a step back and to respond to the situation, rather, we are able to come from a place of healing, also from a place of awareness, most importantly, to not act in an abrupt manner, where we are able to deal with the trigger that's coming up within ourselves in a much more pleasant way. Responding to the trigger allows us to fall behind the trigger. And what I mean by this is so that we can come to the present moment, and whatever is happening in the present moment, the trigger that is coming up within ourselves, we can deal with it in a much more calm way, with being here in the now, with being present and having the awareness that this is happening. It allows us to really neutralize the trigger. And also it allows us to have, this awareness of what is actually going on, so that we are coming from a deeper place, we're coming from a higher place. We are not reactive, but we are able to actually observe what is going on. And from there, we are able to see that this is why I'm reacting, or we are able to do some inner reflection as to understanding ourselves as to what is going on and why it's going on. Well, let's just say, for example, somebody's saying something on the outside, like somebody's saying something to you, and that is causing a little bit of trigger within yourself, a reactivity of maybe an emotion of anger. And perhaps, that person, whatever they are saying has absolutely nothing to do with you, and you just have a lot of anger in reaction to what they are saying, because perhaps, what they are saying has something to do with something that somebody else has said in the past, and now it's bringing about anger within yourself. But when we are completely, when we are not healed, when we are taken with the anger, when we are taken with the emotion, with the reaction, then it's very easy for us to become triggered, very easy for us to react. But if we form this awareness around ourselves becoming triggered, we are able to fall behind the trigger. And falling behind the trigger allows us to come to the situation with more presence and more awareness, with more knowledge of what's going on within ourselves. Also the understanding that, okay, this has nothing to do with me, this has something to do with my past. And this is a great way to guide yourself into healing, to healing whatever that is that you need to heal within yourself. Maybe somebody has said something to you like a year ago, and you have not completely, given yourself time to grieve, or giving yourself time to feel that anger within yourself. Therefore you still hold it within yourself, and therefore when somebody says something which is in relation to that trigger, or in relation to that thing that happened so long ago, you find yourself becoming triggered. And so when you're able to respond, falling behind that, become from a place of awareness that this is something that's going on within ourselves, and therefore it allows us to really do some inner reflection and to heal this within ourselves. I think everyone has triggers, and a lot of times we see triggers as just that, triggers. But if we are able to use triggers as a map, as guidance to heal ourselves, then we can really use this as a tool, a very powerful tool in our healing journey. If you are somebody who is on the spiritual journey or your healing journey, you are somebody who is a light worker, a healer, somebody who really resonates with being around like-minded people like you, people who are also on the spiritual journey, people who are learning about themselves, people who are healers, people who have that awareness. And so if you are somebody who resonates with that, and you would like to become a part of a community of like-minded people like yourself, I co-host this group session, which is a Sunday group session with many other people who are also around the world, seeking spiritual development and also seeking guidance on the spiritual journey. Perhaps you are somebody who resonates with that and you would like to become a part of a community. You can find more information down in the description below. You'll find a sign up page. Make sure you fill that out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for receiving. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.